A surveyor's clipboard on the foredeck of a 30-year-old fiberglass sailboat at a Florida boatyard. 2 pages of handwritten notes, a moisture meter resting against the gel coat, and a $900 invoice. The man holding that clipboard needed no license to be there. He passed no state exam. No government agency reviewed his credentials, checked his insurance, or approved his methods. The American Boat and Yacht Council itself, the organization that writes the standards surveyors are supposed to follow, has said publicly that choosing a trusted marine surveyor is challenging because the profession is not regulated and anyone can call themselves one. That is not an exaggeration. That is a direct statement from the standards body. Across the entire United States, fewer than 1,250 accredited marine surveyors hold credentials from the 2 recognized professional organizations. SAMS, the Society of Accredited Marine Surveyors, founded in 1987, has approximately 900 members worldwide. NAMS, the National Association of Marine Surveyors, founded in 1962, has approximately 350. Not all of those members are fully accredited. A portion of those members are associates, still working toward the 5 years of experience and the written exam required for the top credential. Others specialize in cargo, in commercial vessels, in engine systems only. The number who hold a full accredited marine surveyor or certified marine surveyor designation and actively survey used recreational sailboats in your region is a fraction of that 1,250. That is the entire credentialed workforce standing between you and a catastrophic purchase. Have you ever paid for a survey and wondered if the person doing it was qualified to be there? Drop that number in the comments. This is what Yachts and Boats covers. Subscribe so you do not miss what comes next. The used sailboat market in 2026 has shifted in the buyer's direction, and that shift is the most dangerous thing about it. North American sailboat unit sales dropped 13.79% in 2025, according to data from Boats Group, which operates Yacht World and Boat Trader. The average boat now sits on the market for 209 days before it sells, up 37 days from the year before. Buyers are negotiating 7% off the asking price on average. In the 40 to 55-foot production monohull segment, Karabi Yachts analyzed 8 years of BoatWizard data and found a 34% drop in used monohull sales between 2019 and 2025. Every major brand is affected: Beneteau, Jeannot, Bavaria, Hans, Dufour. The decline ranges from 31 to 45%. There are 1,968 monohulls currently listed for sale in that segment against roughly 420 transactions expected in 2026. That is nearly 5 years of theoretical absorption. Karabi Yachts estimates that 30 to 40% of those listed boats will never find a buyer. Not at their current price, not at any price. Sellers are motivated. Cosmetic presentation has never been higher. Fresh bottom paint covers old blistering. New varnish hides soft teak. A clean bilge tells you nothing about what the engine looked like 6 months ago. And a boat that sits unsold for 7 months costs its owner slip fees, hull cleaning, insurance premiums, and the slow corrosion of a hull sitting in warm salt water without movement. Every one of those costs pushes the seller to do 2 things: lower the price and make the boat look better than it is. That is the moment a buyer walks into a boatyard, sees a clean deck and a fresh coat of all grip, and thinks the deal is too good to pass up. It is also the moment the survey becomes the only tool standing between the buyer and a purchase that will cost more to repair than it costs to buy. The survey is supposed to cut through all of it. A SAMS or NAMS accredited surveyor will spend 4 to 6 hours on a 35-foot sailboat. They will check the hull with a moisture meter and a tap hammer, listening for the dull thud that signals delamination versus the sharp ring of solid laminate. They will test every through-hull fitting and seacock below the waterline. They will run the engine under load, check oil pressure and water temperature, watch the exhaust color at every throttle position. They will open the electrical panel and trace the wiring runs, looking for unfused circuits, residential grade wire in a marine environment, corroded connections, and overloaded battery posts. Electrical defects are the most common category of serious findings in pre-purchase surveys, according to Marine Inspection, a vessel management platform that tracks survey data. After years of owner modifications, amateur wiring jobs, and saltwater corrosion eating through terminal blocks, the electrical system on a 20-year-old sailboat accumulates hazards that are invisible without pulling panels and tracing wire runs. Unfused circuits hardwired to the battery are a fire risk. Residential-grade solid-core Romex wire, designed for the dry interior of a house, corrodes and cracks in a marine environment. Crowded battery posts with more than 4 wires on a single terminal are a direct short waiting to happen. Missing GFCI protection on shore power circuits is a dock electrocution risk. The surveyor who opens the panel and spends 30 minutes tracing the circuits will find these. The one who glances at the panel door and writes, "Electrical system appears functional," will not. The surveyor will reference 80 ABYC standards, covering everything from battery placement to fuel line material to ventilation requirements in engine compartments. Those standards span more than 650 pages. A competent surveyor needs working knowledge of all of them, plus NFPA fire codes and Coast Guard CFR safety requirements. The total cost for a 35-footer, including the survey, a haul-out, and a separate engine inspection, runs between $1,200 and $2,000. That number is the cheapest insurance in boating, because the numbers on the other side of a missed defect do not compare. Osmotic blistering on a fiberglass hull costs $5,000 to $20,000 to strip and barrier coat. Core rot in the deck or hull runs $3,000 to $15,000 per affected area. A full engine replacement on a marine diesel sits between $10,000 and $50,000. Stack those numbers against a boat listed at $35,000, and the repair bill exceeds the purchase price before the buyer has left the boatyard. A sailboat adds a category that powerboats do not carry. Standing rigging, the stainless steel cables that hold the mast upright, has a recommended replacement interval of 10 to 15 years. Swage terminals at the ends of those cables develop microcracks that are invisible to the naked eye from the deck. A full re-rig on a 35-footer runs $8,000 to $15,000, depending on the cable diameter and the number of terminals. Most general surveyors inspect rigging from the deck only. A true rig inspection requires going aloft to the masthead, 45 to 55 feet above the waterline, or hiring a rigging specialist at $300 to $500. A sailboat can pass every deck level check, every engine test, every electrical trace, and still carry a 5-figure rigging bill hiding at the top of the mast where the surveyor never looked. The Boatyard quoting that blistering repair has its own incentive structure. A surveyor flags osmotic blistering and recommends full gel coat stripping. The Boatyard quotes $14,000. A second opinion from a marine consultant says the blisters are surface level, limited to the gel coat, and the hull laminate is structurally sound. Spot repair, $800. The difference between those two numbers is the price of a used outboard engine. Blue Matter Marine Consulting published an analysis in May 2026, noting that many boats with some degree of osmotic blistering continue in service for years without treatment. The distinction that matters is whether the damage has reached the laminate or remains in the gel coat layer. A moisture meter alone cannot tell you which one it is. An experienced surveyor with the right construction knowledge can make that call in the boatyard. The one who cannot is the one who costs you $13,000. That is the problem that no amount of money fixes if the person holding the meter does not understand what the reading means. The ABYC standards. Those surveyors reference are voluntary. No manufacturer is required by federal law to follow them. The federal boat safety standards in the United States have not been meaningfully updated since 1971. 90% of boats built in the United States are built to ABYC standards anyway, because courts treat them as industry custom in liability cases. A 2024 study commissioned by the Coast Guard and conducted by Industrial Economics found that boats built to ABYC standards are 43 to 47% less likely to be involved in certain types of accidents. The same study found those standards reduce fatality likelihood by 26 to 58%. The standards work. The question is whether the person holding the clipboard knows them. The ABYC has no grandfathering clause. A surveyor evaluates every boat, regardless of age, against the current year's standards. A 1982 sailboat is measured against 2026 rules. On December 7, 2017, a United Kingdom-registered charter yacht named Tyger of London was sailing between La Gomera and Tenerife in the Canary Islands with guests aboard. The keel separated from the hull without warning. The yacht capsized in seconds, not minutes, seconds. The crew survived because they happened to be wearing life jackets and another vessel was close enough to reach them. The Marine Accident Investigation Branch examined the wreck and found that the keel had not been manufactured according to its design specification. The defect was embedded at the factory, invisible to conventional inspection, and undetectable by any surveyor using standard non-destructive methods. Keel failure is different from every other deficiency in a survey report. A corroded seacock gives you time to react. A seized impeller gives you time. A keel that separates from a light, fin-keeled sailboat underway does not give you time. On older fiberglass sailboats with encapsulated ballast, common on volume production European designs from the 1970s and the 1980s like Westerly, Sadler, and comparable builders, the failure mode is entirely internal. Water enters through a hairline crack or an old impact point. It pools between the iron ballast and the interior face of the fiberglass keel shell. The iron begins to corrode. Expanding rust pushes outward against the surrounding laminate from the inside, a process that accelerates with each season the boat spends in the water. The surveyor standing on the dock with a moisture meter reads elevated moisture but cannot determine the cause without destructive testing. Ultrasonic thickness gauging of the keel bolts and laminate can detect the early signs, but most general pre-purchase surveys do not include it unless the surveyor specifically recommends it as an additional step. The survey report that reads, "Keel attachment checked, no defects noted," tells you nothing about what the surveyor actually checked, how they checked it, or whether they understood the construction method of the boat under their feet. Which part of that case stays with you? That the defect was invisible, or that no surveyor was required to find it? That gap runs deeper than one keel. On the other side of that invisible risk sits a very visible squeeze. Insurance companies across the United States now require pre-purchase or renewal surveys on boats over 15 to 20 years old. Multiple carriers demand updated surveys every 3 to 5 years on older vessels. Geico acquired Boat US around 2017. Since then, survey requirements have tightened across their portfolio. Long-time customers with 20 years of clean claims are receiving letters demanding a formal survey before their policy will renew. The insurer's math is simple. An older boat has a lower total loss threshold. Once a boat is totaled, the insurance company pays the claim and inherits an unsaleable hull that it must pay to have destroyed. The survey is the insurer's filter. If the surveyor flags enough deferred maintenance, the insurer writes conditions into the policy or declines to renew. The man who bought a $25,000 sailboat to escape the system now needs a $1,500 survey every 5 years just to keep the insurance that the marina requires to let him stay in the slip. The annual cost of that freedom is rising, and the profession performing the gatekeeping inspection has no licensing, no standardized oversight, and a workforce with no training pipeline. Most surveyors work independently. They entered the profession from adjacent marine careers near retirement. Experienced surveyors do not train assistants because the assistant becomes a competitor, and errors and omissions insurance is nearly impossible for new entrants to obtain. The profession is aging out. Demand is rising. Supply is flat. After reviewing every accreditation requirement, every ABYC standard, every insurance threshold, and every structural failure that a survey is supposed to catch, one fact sits at the center of all of it. The ranking in 2026 is not about what gets inspected. It is about who inspects it. A qualified pre-purchase survey demands 5 things. First, SAM's AMS or NAMS CMS accreditation. Not surveyor associate, not apprentice. The full credential, backed by 5 years of verified experience and a passed comprehensive exam. Second, our BYC membership. The surveyor must have access to the current standards and demonstrate familiarity with them. The ABYC standards are updated annually. A surveyor working from a 2018 copy is checking a 2026 boat against 8-year-old rules. Third, vessel type experience. A surveyor who inspects sport fishing boats has no business surveying a 1982 Valiant 40. Ask whether they have surveyed the make and model before. Ask what they would look for on that specific hull type. If the answer is vague, the experience is not there. Fourth, or haul out. A survey performed with the boat in the water is a survey that misses the bottom of the hull, the keel to hull joint, the rudder bearings, the through hulls below the waterline, and the propeller shaft. The haul out costs $250 to $500. Skipping it to save money is the most expensive decision a buyer makes. Fifth, a separate engine survey and a separate rigging survey for any sailboat over 15 years old. The general surveyor is not a qualified diesel mechanic or a qualified rigger. The $300 to $500 for each specialist catches failures the general survey was never designed to find. Total cost for a 35-foot sailboat in 2026, done correctly, $1,800 to $2,500. That number sounds large until you hold it against the 34% decline in used monohull sales since 2019. Hold it against the 1,968 boats listed and the 420 that will actually sell this year. Then hold it against the 30 to 40% of those listings that will never find a buyer at any price. The boats that sell in this market are the ones with clean survey reports, documented maintenance histories, and no deferred repairs. The buyers who survive this market are the ones who paid for the survey that found the problems before the contract closed. The pattern is not accidental. Subscribe to Yachts and Boats for the investigations that protect your ownership before the first line is signed.